at the beginning of the show when the lights go up and I enter the stage, and that's always the time when the anxiety is like really strong. So in my show, my little Greggy comes out and he does his thing. He gets to be silly and goofy, and that helps me to kind of let all the anxiety soften so I can tell the rest of the story.
Hey, welcome to a podcast where dreams meet determination and success is just around the corner. I'm your host, Suzanne Taylor-King, and I'm here to help you unlock the full potential of your business and your life. Welcome to Unlock Your Way with STK. Let's unlock your path to success together. Good morning, everyone. Suzanne Taylor-King here for another live episode of Unlock Your Way with STK. And today we are here with Gregory Halpen. He's a new connection of mine, and I immediately was drawn to his message. He's a creativity practice coach, and he guides creatives to get out of their head and into their creative genius. And welcome, Gregory. I'm really excited that you're here.
Hi, Suzanne. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm very excited to have this cool conversation with you.
Yeah. I love unique people, and you immediately stand out to me, which is very inspiring. I'm a creative. I loved your website message, this idea of getting out of my own head so I can be and lean into that creativity, has been life-changing for me. So I can really see the value in what you do. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, thank you so much. That was very kind and sweet of you to say. So what I do is I help creative people, whether they're a painter, dancer, actor, singer, whatever, because everyone is creative. So I help them get out of their heads by helping them figure out their own personal creative practice, their process, some process or a practice that they can explore within themselves rather than trying to find it outside of themselves.
Yeah. Wow.
Which means going for a walk to clear your head, journaling. There's so many different ways that a creative person can become inspired and motivated when they're stuck.
Yes. I know one of the things that used to keep me stuck years ago was I had so many ideas, so many creative things that I used to think they were all for me. And trying to pursue multiple things at a time when you're a creative typically doesn't work in the business world, at least. How do you help calm down that urge to create so that somebody can focus?
Especially when you have multiple passions and multiple things. Yeah, I do too. I have multiple, like I'm an actor, singer. I like creating solo theater, and I like coaching. So what's really helped for me is to try to tie all of those things together so they're interrelated as opposed to each thing being too separate. And that's helped me become, it's hard, it's difficult when you have anxiety and you're trying to navigate that too. Trying to manage multiple things can be challenging, but I tend to try to connect each thing. I try to make each thing sort of interrelated. That's been helpful.
Yeah. I know that was definitely key for me in that situation, is learning how to integrate that into what I do for a living was very, very helpful. Who typically benefits from this? I mean, I'm imagining I'm kind of like your ideal person 10 years ago. I would have been great for you.
Yeah, it's someone who's stuck, someone who is an actor who's very interested in creating a solo show, whether it be a cabaret show or a play. but they don't know how to get started because they're so stuck in their heads and they have these preconceived ideas of how it's supposed to happen and how you're supposed to go about it. I think helping them develop some sort of ritualistic practice that gets them out of their head and into their heart, into their soul, so they can just discover like what works for them, what they need to just keep them on their creative journey, because sometimes we can get derailed very easily, and the resilience part can be challenging, to bounce back faster. So
Yeah. Now, do you find that a lot of your clients get hung up in what, especially as an actor, a performer, a singer, a dancer, once you get over 40, you kind of think, oh, it's too late for me.
Yeah.
Or people are going to say things that aren't kind about me. You find that to be true?
Yeah, and I try really hard to stay out of that. Like if you read comments and if you even like the lack of response from any kind of thing that you put out there, like if you, let's say I put something out there like a song that I'm kind of rehearsing, and I try to show like the nuts and bolts of it rather than something that's a perfect finished product. And sometimes if people don't comment or like it, that's kind of when I get in my head. And I'm thinking, oh my God, they hate me. Oh my God, I'm not talented.
Yeah.
But I have to remember that I get feedback in different ways that actually it's very fulfilling. But sometimes I forget that. But as long as I can find that place, find that way back. And that's the resilience part,
Well, I think it's so important. And anybody who's listening that's an entrepreneur or creative and you're putting things out there on social media, please, please, please remember at any given time, only 1% of your followers and your friends are seeing your content. And that made me realize, oh, that's why I don't have 7,000 likes on a post, because not everybody is seeing everything you put out there. That, especially today, the space is so crowded or so overwhelming with people posting content. So I always like to put that disclaimer on for my clients, because if you're depending on likes and comments for your own validation, it's not a good place to be. It can really be a downward spiral.
Yeah, that's definitely a wounded place. That place where you just want to like constantly seek validation. And that's part of the process too, of helping creatives figure out a process, because we try to seek that validation. So we're like seeking something on the outside, rather than either figuring out how to find it within ourselves or cultivate it with people you trust and who you respect and who see you. Those people who lift you up, who will give you the feedback that you desire, that you need. I think that's important too. That's part of it.
That inner circle, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know who said it originally, but you are the product of the 10 people you hang around with the most. And make sure you pick those 10 people really well, and that you can ask for constructive feedback, good or bad. And it's coming from a respected place.
Yes. And part of a little part of my creative process, especially writing this solo play that I'm currently developing, is being in a group, being in a weekly class or a writing group, where it's you're surrounded by like-minded people who are there doing the same thing. So we write something that week for our show, and then we present it in the group for feedback. And the feedback's always affirming and honest and truthful. And that's kind of that's part of my process to make sure I'm in that kind of space.
And how did you find that space for yourself?
Well, I did a search, internet search, and I found this person, Sarah Lynn, um, sorry, not Sarah, Jessica Lynn Johnson, who owns this, she does this as her work, solo theater work. And I found her like 6 or 7 years ago, and it took me like all that time to finally get there and be part of her work. But
beautiful.
Yeah. And she's great. It's great.
Tell us a little bit about what you're working on right now.
So I'm working on an autobiographical solo play that is sort of like a coming of age story. Sort of like when I had my first kiss with a guy in the 8th grade. He was in my 8th grade class. So that was a very, very, very monumental time in my life.
Wow.
Yeah. And a lot of it has to do with my mom and her, her unmet desire to be a singer. Her voice was very beautiful and she sang very beautifully. So it's sort of, that ties into it too, in terms of like how I continue this legacy, so to speak. It's like I do it for myself, but I also do this for my mom, sort of give her the spotlight.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And a lot of it's told through my inner child. Like little Greggy comes out and he plays. He talks to the audience and he wears a onesie and he carries a spoon with him because he loves to, I used to, as a little boy, sneak to the kitchen for a scoop of peanut butter so I can take it back to my bedroom, and it was my reward.
Oh, how cute. Well, that's how brave of you to, one, stand up on stage by yourself to do something like that. But it's also really vulnerable on your part. You're kind of letting people into your story, and that can be such a powerful thing to do, but yet kind of scary.
Yeah, and that's why a creative practice is so important, because part of that vulnerability is about being able to trust those around you who are listening to you. And that takes time. That takes time to develop. And I notice there are many solo theater performers who write something and they get it up so quickly, and then you just see it and you're like, okay, that just, there's a lot of great stuff there, but they just rushed it. They didn't take their time. It's not, the intimacy is sort of missing. And that's why I take this development of my show like such a sacred experience. It's like a baby, and I I nurture it in the right way.
Well, that's such a beautiful message for anybody who's in that creative process, whether you're creating an online course or a program, or, even writing a blog post that's creative. It's so important to be in that space of, and in today's world of AI content and, videos that are you, but they're not really you, and trusting that what you're consuming is real. And it's the vulnerability piece and the authentic piece that actually makes other people trust you, that it's actually a real thing.
Yes, exactly. And I saw this solo show last night on Theater Row in New York City, and this person is very talented, and it was a beautiful story about her and her mom, their relationship and the complexities of it and all that. But I just noticed sort of there was I don't like talking about other people's work in a negative way, but you have to critically look at everything, and you have to be able to dissect stuff, especially if you're a performer and you want to reach a certain level. But there was just parts that the intimacy felt a little, robotic, but so it's like that kind of thing. It's paying attention to that sort of element in creativity, in business owning, in all sorts of ways.
Yeah. I'd love to go back a little bit to the trust thing that you mentioned. being in front of an audience, whether it's what we're doing right now virtually, whether it's, doing a video and putting it out there or a play, you have to trust yourself first.
Yes.
Let's speak a little bit to that process. What does that look like for you?
That's about trusting yourself, is about listening to yourself and being able to navigate through all the noise that might come up with the inner critic, the imposter syndrome, yes, because that's active right now in my head.
That's a real thing. A real thing.
But the more you exercise resilience, the more you do things like self-care and, a lot of therapy work or trauma work, if you have some sort of traumatic wounding. So yeah, that's what trust means to me. Like I said, like right now, that inner critic's like having a party up there, but I'm able to talk to it at the same time, talk to him.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's one of the things that's, fascinating about creatives is that they tend to have a stronger inner critic. They tend to have more imposter syndrome. They tend to have a louder, nagging voice in their head, telling them they're not good enough. They shouldn't be doing that, trying to keep you safe, I believe. But one of the things I'm so curious about is when you're on stage like that with no one else to play off of, it's only you. Often, as entrepreneurs, my clients are on stage themselves. Yep. And how do you get past just that initial, I can't do this? What's the step to move past that?
Well, I personally have generalized anxiety, and it can be intense sometimes. It takes me a long time to navigate that. So I try to build that element into my show. I try to do it in a way where at the beginning of the show, when the lights go up and I enter the stage, and that's always the time when the anxiety is really strong. So I figure out a way to just integrate that into the opening, something very gentle. So in my show, I begin with the inner child. My little Greggy comes out and he does his thing, and he gets to be silly and goofy and all of that. So in a sense, for me, that helps me to kind of let all the anxiety soften so I can tell the rest of the story.
Well, I love that you're using a little bit of humor to do that.
Yeah, that helps.
Such a default for me. When uncomfortable, make a joke and make everybody laugh. And immediately the room is more comfortable, so I'm more comfortable.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes that could be the sarcasm can also be a coping skill, because it's like, oh, I don't like how I feel, so I'm going to say something sarcastic.
Yes. That's something I learned from my dad. So not like I learned that, as a kid, that was okay to diffuse situations, whether it was my own anxiety or someone else's.
Yeah.
It was okay to diffuse. And sometimes it's a little deflection for me of the attention off me.
Yeah.
How do you find, for the people that you work with, what's that process look like? If someone wants to be more front and center, they want to be bolder, they want to do what you coach around, what does that first step look like to get out of their own way?
The first step is learning how to name it. Sometimes we don't know. I didn't know my sarcasm was a way of avoiding intimacy. I didn't know that I was afraid to be intimate like, this is intimate. We're talking, and even like romantic intimacy. The first step would be being able to name it, and mixed with just teaching them how to like just be in that discomfort, that uncomfortable place, without finding something to cover it up or mask it or avoid. So those kind of two things that go hand in hand.
Wow. Do you find naming the voice in your head that's negative a good starting place as well?
Yeah, absolutely. You can give it a name. You can give it a face by drawing a face. But I kind of just call mine Greg, because it's me. But I essentially talk to him and give him permission to do what he wants to do with his words and voice, because he needs a voice too. He needs a space. But I also kind of dictate when he can go and sit and time out. Have a break. Take a break.
Yeah. Yeah. There was something I read from Stoic philosophy about your inner daimon is that inner best version of yourself that knows who you are and what you want to create. And it's often a battle with your demon, that negative voice. And that those two are, kind of like the angel on your shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder. They're always battling for, protecting you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always.
Always. And I found through some work a couple years ago on that voice by naming her Norma. Norma was very negative and very condescending. She's very jealous and constantly in my ear about what not to do. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you can't do that. That won't work. And it wasn't until I named her and actually had a conversation, like, that's not serving me any longer. And, it was a combination of coaching, mentorship, therapy, all the things. But it really came down to the desire to be who I was capable of being was stronger than her voice telling me I couldn't.
That's powerful.
It was. It was so powerful.
It's super powerful. That's amazing that you got to that place where you can.
Well, it took years. And
right.
I could see where, having someone who understood what I was working on the way you would have, the way you would nurture one of your clients going through that. It's really such a gift in what you do.
Thank you. Yeah, it's also important to let them know that it's a habit. It's taken a long time to build that coping mechanism. It didn't happen overnight. So it's got to take time to unravel that and to change it and to replace it with something else. I mean, it's always going to be there. It's always going to be there, but it's about figuring out how to bounce back, how to build that resilience muscle.
Yeah. I love a little grit, and I love a little like spiciness to it. And one of my favorite things about having resilience and grit is the idea of just do it anyway. And I don't know, what does that look like for you? How have you been brave in this journey? And, from what I see, you're just doing it anyway. And what does that look like for you?
I think I started training as a professional performer, actor, singer in 11th grade during the summertime. Yeah, when I did summer stock and I took classes from professionals who came to our little town in upstate New York and taught us. So from then, when I look back in retrospect, I noticed that anxiety was there big time. I didn't know it. Couldn't name it, but it was there. So over the years, that anxiety was there all the time, got in the way every single time. But there was an inner voice that just kept telling me, just keep doing it. Don't stop. Stop. And I mean, it's taking me like 3 decades to figure it out. But I think that's what has propelled me to just keep going and keep doing it, is that inner voice saying, don't stop. Don't let anxiety or whatever that is stop you.
Yeah. Because you're really fulfilling your purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. I just know that I was always meant to do this, to be a performer or be a storyteller. It took me a long time to figure that out. It was always I love to perform, or I've been doing it for a lot. It's been very basic reasoning why, until I connected to why I want to perform. And it's really connected to my family, connected to trauma, connected to my mom's story. So it just goes so much deeper. And when I figured that out, everything just made sense.
Yeah.
Got a little easier.
Yeah. I love that so much.
A little easier.
A little easier. Right.
Right. It's going to be like that tug of war, but it's super easier now.
Yeah. Yeah. Really beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing a little piece of you today. I'm wondering if you would share how our listeners can connect with you and find out more about what you do.
Yeah, you can find me on my website, gregoryhalpen.com, and Instagram. I am there a lot, Gregory Halpen. And those are the two main areas you can find me. And yeah, I'll be rolling out a lot of really cool things soon.
Wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for explaining a little bit of how you unlocked your way on my show. Now you understand the reason I call my show that, because, finding more, I love finding out about people like you and a little bit about your story and why you do what you do and how you help other people in this world. So really appreciate you, and thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you for creating such a safe space to do that. Thank you.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Thanks, everyone. We're going to wrap up, and let's show Greg some appreciation on Instagram and Facebook. Check out the show notes for all of his contact information, and have a great weekend and a great rest of your day. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another empowering episode of Unlock Your Way. I hope you found today's discussion inspiring and you're ready to take your business and personal growth to that next level. If you're feeling as fired up as I am and eager to unlock that full potential, I'm here to help you on your journey and provide that personalized guidance tailored to your unique goals and challenges. Simply book a one-on-one coaching call with me, and we'll dive deep into your business aspirations and see how we could co-create a roadmap for your success. And whether you're striving to scale an enterprise or just getting started, I'm here to support you every step of the way. To schedule your coaching call, simply visit the website at unlockyourwaywithstk.com, click on the Book a Call button, and we'll turn your dreams into that reality. Subscribe and review on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube. Plus, you can join over 800 entrepreneurs in the Idea Lab Facebook group. Let's make success as an entrepreneur happen together. Until next time, I'm STK. Keep dreaming big, stay focused, and most of all, have fun while you're doing it.